What is crack-a-lackin', fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Favale coming at you with my certified fantabulous thermonuclear AF co-host, Mr. Grant Hughes. We are going to get to our all-NBA, all-league, all-defense, all-rookie teams on this podcast. Go check out the awards podcast. It was over 2 hours long. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, since I'm saying it now, subscribe to us if you haven't already and you're listening to this. Grant, though, the most important question before we get started, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing really well. I am excited to talk about the thing I forgot to prep for last time, which is the all-NBA, all-rookie, and all-defense teams. And I am also excited because any of my picks that are not good won't matter because I won't be alone because you made all the same ones.
Yeah, and look, this was still really hard. These are our official picks. There's no take backs.
This is
on this one. Season's almost over, and I'm still like equivocating on some of them. I'm not gonna lie.
I had some real thoughts about my fifth first team spot, like up to when we started talking, and I'm still having some.
I have takes on whether. I mean, we should just get into this at this point. We're gonna begin with all NBA. Because that's what Grant kind of demanded it. I think is that what we'll say demanded.
I work big to small. We like to front load.
So we're going to begin with all NBA. And the last time we had done this, we had said, okay, there are 5 locks or 4 locks for the first team. I am no longer convinced that there are 4. I think there are 3. But I'm curious as to where I feel like I'll say it this way, and maybe we could reveal it. I think the 3 locks for me are Jokic, SGA, and Luka.
Those are 3 of my locks. I agree. So you must then, by the process of elimination, be suggesting that Giannis is less of a lock for you now than he was when we last did this.
So yes, and I think it's because I think it's the Bucks have been weird. He's been part of the weirdness, especially at the beginning of the season. Him and Dame never feeling like they've quite meshed. I think Giannis has done a good job, especially later on in the season, carrying some units that maybe, quite frankly, like he shouldn't have any business carrying. But like the defense has been weird all year, and everyone's wondering why haven't they tried using him a lot differently this year on defense? Just like that's never been his strength. And then do you penalize him for that? I say all this. And this is what I wanted to use as the launching point for the discussion. We can talk about Jokic, SGA, and Luka, but like I differentiate is my point between all NBA and MVP because the value terms in MVP makes me weight the team impact and the performance overall more. Whereas if you look at Giannis's numbers, they are just video game stupid. He is still one of the best defenders in the NBA, even though I don't think he's going to make an all defense team this year. So he was still kind of like a fringe lock to me because I'm just looking at these individual numbers that he's putting up and separating it from, okay, well, the Bucks have been weird and maybe he's not having this impact as much when he's, look, the Bucks are winning the minutes he plays without Brook and Damian Lillard, which is a testament to him. And so that's part of the calculus. But when I was trying to think of, is he still kind of a lock? I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't know if he's a lock. And he ended up making, I say all this, he ended up making both of our first teams. I'll throw it up there. So we ended up with the 4 same guys there. I'm just curious as to how you feel about that, or was he just an auto inclusion for you?
Well, the reason I framed my question to you the way I did was because I do think Giannis, to me, felt like less of a lock than he was when we last talked. And really like, I don't know how long, what percentage of the season it has been obvious to me that these 4 guys belonged on all NBA first team. I still think he belongs. It's just less certain, I think, as
which
the
is
Bucks.
Fine.
Yeah. Like as the Bucks continued to not impress. I also, though, I look at MVP and all NBA a little differently too. I'm sure I've talked about this where it's like MVP, it's like the really, the valuable component of it really does do a lot of the lifting. And it's like you look at on off, you look at all the things we talked about when we did MVP, the numbers really matter. For all NBA though, and I think this actually weirdly helps Giannis, who does have the crazy numbers, where it's like this is my justification for putting Kawhi on when we did this last time on first team. It's you kind of just like, if you imagine, like we say, let's be real though, like who's actually the best player. It's such a like, that's a fuzzy way to do it. It's like not very scientific, but like Giannis is still that guy to me. And if some of the other names that I would consider, I would just say, like, if you tell me I got to pick a guy to build my team around starting tomorrow, I'm still taking Giannis over basically everybody but the three other guys. And maybe I would take him over someone like SGA. I don't know. Like, so it's unscientific, or less scientific maybe than MVP. But I think actually framing it that way for me makes it easier to keep Giannis in this group than otherwise. But yeah, like I think it's totally reasonable if you're having like some misgivings about putting him with those first three guys, because the first three guys just have unassailable cases. I think like there's no rational person is not going to have those three. I don't think in the on first team.
Yeah, good luck coming up with. I want to see someone make the case for one of those three guys not making it. But what I will say, since we don't really have anything to add about them, and we did have a more in-depth discussion about them with MVP, I do want to note. I say this every year. I hate the way the MVP debate is framed. I probably even hate the way that I framed it, like during some of our discussions. But there are people that were, fans are going to fan where they're going to, I think we had a bunch of comments that said putting Luka's in the top 2 of MVP and it isn't 2. Putting him any lower is disrespectful. And it's like, all right, so it's disrespecting Luka not voting him for MVP, or it's what more does Luka have to do to win MVP, or Luka doesn't have, but it's like, I don't love this the way it's framed, where it's not just about Luka. It's Jokic is out here doing this other stuff too. And it's so I'm just using Luka as an example. I'm not trying to chop down this, but it's Luka is scoring more points. I think he has the advantage in assists, but like, do we not care that Jokic is the better defender too, or that he elevates the Nuggets offense just as much? And if, I hate the way it works. There's like a give and take to it where we've even said, oh, well, look at Jason Tatum supporting cast and all the help he has. And then I've seen a lot of the way it's framed for the Mavericks. So it's like, he doesn't have an all-star teammate, or it's that way with Jalen Brunson. Like, look, I know Julius Randle technically made the all-star, but look at what he's doing on his own. And it's okay. Well, Jokic technically doesn't have an all-star teammate. And then it's, well, Jamal Murray's at that level. And so we just keep moving the goalposts to make the argument for, if you've locked in on one person and are unwilling to consider other entrants to it. Like, the problem with the MVP discussion, or one of the problems, is it has to be more about than just, oh, look what Luka is doing. If you pick Luka to make MVP, I actually think he has an argument. SGA, Jokic, and Luka, you want to pick any of them? I'm absolutely fine with it, but it's not, he literally can't do anything more. How is this? Like, no, there are other guys who are part of this. And it's like, oh, look at what Luka has done with this roster. It's okay. Well, Jokic has the best team in the Western Conference right now. And technically he doesn't have any all-stars on his team either. And are you now going to say that Kyrie Irving isn't all-star caliber, so Luka's doing it all on his own? I'm not denigrating Luka's MVP case. Like I said, any one of these three, I think if you want to vote for them, I think there are cases to be made. Hey, this is why. I just take umbrage with the fact that if you lock in on somebody, or if you're even a fan of this team, that player, and that's who you want to pick, and you're not willing to consider other arguments or adjust certain priors, and like, maybe this is hypocritical because we had Jokic atop this list for, even when it seemed like it was more of a competition between him and SGA, but I hate the MVP discussion.
I think, well, I would say that now this is going to sound like something an asshole would say, and like maybe I'm just telling on myself, but you've lost my attention if your argument is it's disrespectful to XYZ, because that's not a serious, you're not interested in having a discussion. Like, you've put your anchor down, and you're now like attacking the logic that someone like, you don't care what the reasons are. So like, I don't know. I don't think you need to, let's have a little talk. I don't think you need to engage with someone that's going to start the conversation with, you have disrespected him. Because like, what the fuck what are you talking about?
Yeah, I just read them now. I won't engage, but yeah.
No, yeah. And we've set up a nice straw person here because, like, we've just made someone say a hypothetically dumb thing, and we're taking them down now. But like, that, if you want to vote for Luka, awesome. There's a lot of evidence that you can use to support your case for why he's the MVP. You just have to acknowledge that there are at least two and maybe more other guys who's have arguments that are just as good or better. Yeah, I don't hate the MVP discussion because I think it can be had civilly and rationally. I hate any discussion when it gets stupid like that. Like, when
Better
it's
way to put it.
motivated by bias or fandom or whatever. It's like, if we're going to have a serious discussion, we can do that. We can compare numbers or whatever, whatever your criteria are. But like the disrespectful angle is always like, it's so hollow. It like doesn't mean anything, you know?
And I always, even when I'm so reticent now, and this is a flaw of mine. I'll make clear. Is I operate under the assumption that I'm just wrong all the time. Like I don't have, but even when I say, oh, there are 3 locks, I always have to add the caveat for me. Whereas if you want to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
that,
yeah.
I'll listen to your case. I'm probably going to if you try to make a case against SGA, Luka, or Jokic making first team All NBA, I will listen to it.
I'm very interested in that case.
I'm
I would
first,
be
yeah,
fascinated. I
you
would love
actually
to hear
might
it.
have my rapt attention at that point if you're prepared to make that case.
Okay, the fifth one though is interesting. We went the same way here. Do you want to just put them up?
And yeah, and I was actually gonna say I think I need so it's Jason Tatum for both of us. And I was wondering if I could grab the mic really quick because
Please.
I do wonder if I've galaxy brained this too much. I had Kawhi last time. I had Kawhi. I've been writing about it for the longest time. I think Jalen Brunson has a case here as well. But when I look at Giannis versus Tatum, and this is the one that I was thinking about where I feel like Giannis might have a flimsier first team case than Tatum if you really want to weight the value to their team as part of this rather than skewing towards the individual stuff. Tatum is the leading scorer, leading rebounder, the second leading assist man for what is by miles and miles and miles the best team in the league, and certainly the best team in the Eastern Conference. And I kind of feel like maybe I was overthinking it, over gaming it. And it certainly helps to me that he's hitting like 37+% of his off the dribble triples since the All-Star break. And so that was such a key part of his game, and it was inefficient for a little while that I had trouble wrapping my head around it. But I'm sitting here saying I don't want to penalize guys or necessarily reward them for the supporting cast. And I do believe the NBA is too narrative driven. I think or not too narrative driven. I think the awards are narrative driven, which I'm okay with as long as you're willing to allow the narrative to change. It can't be I locked in on player X for MVP and I'm just going to figure out ways to contextualize that and make him MVP all season. With all NBA, it's, you know what? Okay, Tatum has a better top 5 supporting cast than pretty much anyone in the league except for maybe Jokic. But okay, look at how good Jason Tatum still is. He's the best player on the best team. And that's not solely my case, like I said, but you look at it and it's, this guy's a really good defender, just as like the way that the stuff that he can do off the weak side. It's not his fault that Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Drew Holiday exist, so he's not going to take these primary coverages as much. I think you can argue Giannis is, I hate doing this, but more limited. I have air quotes. Anyone listening is more limited on defense because you can't put him in that role, and you probably could with Tatum. It's just with either of with Giannis now, you might be more inclined to do so, but with Tatum, you don't have to do that. But I don't necessarily regret having Kawhi for as long as I did. And I do think Jalen Brunson has a case, but I almost feel like the Jalen Brunson, Kawhi Leonard case is stronger over Giannis at this point than it is for Tatum.
Interesting. I still view Giannis, if we were tiering this, I still think there's a first tier of 4 guys, or maybe I would probably put Jokic in a tier by himself. And then SGA, Luka, Giannis
That is
are
so disrespectful to Luka.
I know. Apologies for the disrespect. But then I think there's a really strong case that you could put Tatum, Kawhi, and Brunson in a tier here together. And like, I really got no problem. Like Brunson was the guy that, like, I had Kawhi there too for a long time. And I still think Kawhi is a better player than Jason Tatum. Like in terms of if you're the whole like starting a team tomorrow and you're trying to win a championship, who would you rather have? I think I probably take Kawhi, injury risk and all, just because I think his highest level, which he hit for a chunk of this year, is just higher than Tatum can reach. And I think Brunson, in a lot of ways, you could definitely say like his season has been more impressive than Tatum's just because of what he's had to do. And how productive he's been in those circumstances. This is where also, like, look, we both have Tatum, but I think the Celtics are plus 10 per 100 with Tatum on the bench, which is just like bonkers. But again, that's not a knock on him. It's just a testament to the quality of talent around him. They're awesome. They're equally awesome with him. I think ultimately I went with Tatum because, Kawhi has had an uneven season. He's hurt again, but was awesome at the peak of it. Brunson, I just don't think is quite at like Tatum's level. This is where we get into the hazy, like who's actually better. Tatum just felt like the safest pick. I don't know. That's why I, vacillated so much with it and could just you could, if you had a really strong argument like tonight, right now, for Kawhi or Brunson, I could so easily be talked into it because I think those three guys, Tatum, Brunson, and Kawhi, are like, I cannot argue with you if you have one of them on and the other two off at this point.
The the other thing I'll kind of note about Tatum, so you mentioned like, oh, well, look at how good they are with him off the floor. And I think that's where it comes back to the MVP discussion more than all NBA. But do you know, so he's played about 1,000 possessions without Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Kristaps Porzingis. The Celtics are a plus 17.2.
Yeah.
So it's just like, that has to matter as part of this too. If you even want to make his MVP case, my differentiation just might be imperfect. We both put him on first team. And so it's like, that's at the end of the day what it is. And I don't think he's undeserving. It's just, it's a matter of splitting hairs. It comes down to preferences. And I think the bigger thing is how this stuff is interpreted. And it's just, so you mentioned it with Jalen Brunson. What you talked about with him, I am more inclined to and did reward him more in the MVP debate, where, if we did our MVP ladders right now, there's a chance I might have him above Giannis and put him into that 4th spot, but I had him 5th. And Tatum is on my first team, like that. So that's just the differentiation there for me.
Yeah, no, that was a tough one. I'm glad you struggled similarly with it.
Was second team, I ended up having 5 locks for me for second team. Second team was the easiest team for me to build.
I had 4, and then my 5th spot, I still don't feel great about. I actually well, we should just go to it. So we both have Kawhi. That was a no-brainer.
So I'll unveil the top 3. I think we might have the same top 4, but Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, and Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. I mean, those were easy. I mean, Kawhi and Brunson, we just spent time talking about, like, easily could have been first team. We both also had LeBron. And I just like the statistical cases there, like the eye test. Like, I don't know, he's a second teamer. He did not give him any real serious consideration for first team, though, did you?
No, but I will say there are people that are, and you know what, I'm going to unveil my final 2 because I have Anthony Davis on second team as well. And I have seen people like reference, not mine specifically, but how do the Lakers have 2 all NBA players when they're like, look how bad they're doing. They're 10 games over 500. Yeah. That's like, the West is just so brutal. And the fact that these are megastars playing megastar basketball, that's what all NBA is about. Now, if you want to, say that adversely impacts their MVP case, the way that they're trailing these other teams, I'll absolutely agree with you on that. But for all NBA purposes, I just look at LeBron, and I don't view this. I didn't reward him in the slightest because he's old. So I want to make that clear.
No, yeah, of course not.
This dude is, he is old relative to other NBA players, but like, he's shooting 58+% on 2s, a career high 41+% on 3s, while averaging over 25 points and 8 assists per game. There is nobody on record has ever hit those benchmarks for an entire season. And even if you lower the baseline to just say average 25 points, at least 8 assists, shoot 40% from 3 and 55% from 2, LeBron is still just standing alone right there. And so he was an easy inclusion for me. And then Anthony Davis, the numbers are finally starting to back this up. The Lakers are better defensively with Anthony Davis on the court. Whenever I watch him play, I don't understand how they're not the best defensive team in the league, basically, because of just all the things he's able to do. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think in terms of the sheer amount of responsibility that he bears, only Bam Adebayo rivals it. When you're looking at all the different things he needs, not can do, but needs to do on a possession by possession basis. And so that it just made this so easy, especially like AD's offense has been really good this year. He's starting to hit jumpers again. We'll see if that lasts. But like, the play finishing's been good. His passing has come up from this might be the best passing season of his career, quite frankly. I haven't dug deep enough into that. Then just very quickly on Jalen Brunson, I don't even know, like, even independent of, well, is he being rewarded because the Knicks don't have another shot creator without Julius Randle in the lineup, and even when they have Julius Randle, it's kind of an imperfect shot creator. Yeah, no shit. Like, that's part of it. Anyone who listened to the Knicks Film School podcast I was on knows this stat, or if you watched the Knicks broadcast that night, because they apparently relayed it, knows this stat. Michael Jordan is the only other player to have a season in which he posted usage and assist rates north of 30 with a turnover rate below 10. That is bonkers to shoulder that usage in imperfect spacing. Looking at Brunson specifically, the Knicks They're shooting a lot of threes now, but like defenses are still keying in on you, is what I mean when I'm talking about imperfect spacing. And just, you could say, oh, well, is he really as good as he's not as good as a passer as Luka or LeBron? I don't fucking care. Like, he's not turning the ball over, and he's one of the highest usage players in the league right now.
Yeah, I just, like you said, like, I forget how you phrased it, but is he benefiting somehow from the Knicks needing him to do this? Like, I feel like he's being punished. Like he's like succeeding despite the situation. Like, it's incredible that he's done what he's done in these circumstances. Like, you lose your whole front court. You didn't have a lot of shot creation, like, to begin with, when all those guys were healthy. So it just, like, I don't know if there was like an overcoming the circumstances award, like he wins it this year because he's been so productive and like efficient and added layers to his game with the off the dribble 3-point, all this stuff we've talked about. Like he's so much, like he's way closer to making first team than slipping to third team for me. That's
a great way to put it.
Way closer. So my fifth guy, I did agonize over Anthony Davis.
Rudy Gobert got it though.
I ultimately went with Devin Booker. Kind of similar arguments as you were in a different way as you were laying out for Davis. Like, he's responsible for so much defensively. Booker was tasked with being the point guard this year. He's averaging 27 and 7. The 7 assists are a career high. Like, he's been up in the 6s before, half a decade ago, but those were with fairly high turnover rates. Like, when he averaged 6.8 assists in 18-19, he's turning it over 4 times a game. Almost 4 the next year when he averaged 6.5 assists. So this year it's 7 assists and 2.6 turnovers. He's cut his turnovers from last year. This is the lowest they've been with any kind of heavy distribution role he's ever had. I know that, like, I've slipped in and out of this. You've been really steadfast of like, the Suns don't need a point guard. They have one. Devin Booker is awesome at this. I've come around to that. And I think the degree of difficulty is there for him. Like, he's shouldering a role that, like, is really not ultimately like what you would want him to play in ideal circumstances, but he's doing really well at it. I think some of the same, like, you're going to put 2 Lakers on an all NBA team applies to, like, you're going to put 2 Suns on because they've had, it's just the other night, obviously the down 35-4 was just like
shout out Drew Eubanks though for representing their entire offense for
the
entire first
good
quarter.
For him. But I just think, I mean, it was AD or Devin Booker. I went with Booker. AD's obviously making my third team. We can go there did you think about Booker at all? Because I feel like generally you've been a little higher on Booker than me, but it's not like, not way out of whack.
No, you disrespect him and I give him due credit. Well, no, so I'm disrespecting him now. So I do have him on my, I don't know which spot I have him. I don't remember where I listed him. I don't have these in any particular order, but I'm trying to find him so I can just put it on the screen.
You have him in your second, third team spot for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, so I have him on my third team spot, and he was one of the other 2 names that I strongly considered for one of the second team slots. And the only thing I would just add is what I struggled with, and I will weight this more in all NBA. Well, not so much with third team, which is where I put him. He's barely in the top 50 of total minutes played. He just qualified for the 65 game minimum the other night.
Yeah.
That factored in a little bit when I was looking at him versus AD and even the Kawhi stuff and KD and Brunson, that's part of it. The minutes played here. Kevin Durant's like 7th in total minutes played this year. That's wild. Anthony Davis hasn't played this much in forever. Kawhi hasn't played this much since 2016, 2017. Like, he's just over 2,000 minutes comfortably. With Devin Booker, I'm fine with you putting him on second team because of how impactful he is. Yes, the Suns are kind of a mess in certain stretches, but like the 2 things that stood out to me is, so there's the raw statistics, which is, I found this wild, not because Devin Booker was involved, but because of one of the other names. The only other players averaging more than 27 points with an assist rate above 30, Luka and Jalen Brunson. And then there are 2 more aside from Booker. Booker's here that I don't think you would have guessed because I wouldn't have guessed. Giannis and Embiid. I might have gotten Embiid, but Giannis and Embiid didn't play in a ton of games, yada, yada, yada. So I thought that's great company to be in. All those other guys are all NBA players except for Embiid because of the games minimum. The other thing is the Suns, when he plays without Beal and Kevin Durant, are plus 9.2 points per 100 possessions. He is not the offensive problem. He's probably been part of it at points, and the roster is imperfect. But like, this is someone who very much, I honestly think, even though I have Kevin Durant on second team, I think Devin Booker is more important and drives more of Phoenix's success insofar as you consider what they've done any success this season more than. So if this was an MVP ranking, I would have Devin Booker above Kevin Durant.
Interesting. Yeah, I can get behind that. I did have Davis. Anthony Davis obviously was would if I were ranking him, which I'm not. Like he was when he didn't make second team, he's like I got his third team, get his name down immediately.
I don't know. He's at the bottom, so I think that means that you almost put him on 14.
I disrespected him. We have, let's see, we have two other in common picks for the third team. Maybe we should just put those up and focus more on the ones that we differed on, which are.
Yes. So we only have two, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
Anthony Edwards and Steph Curry are our in common third teamers.
So I'll throw those up on. I mean, the Anthony Edwards one is, and I'll oversimplify this. The Minnesota Timberwolves cannot not have an all NBA player on their roster. It just, it can't. And things that stood out. He has improved as a passer. He hits that all defense level, both on and away from the ball, I would say more frequently. And I think he and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid not have covered up, but they've almost eclipsed the fact that, okay, Jaden McDaniels might still be your best perimeter defender, but I really don't think Jaden McDaniels has been as good, let alone on offense, but on defense this year as he has been in years past. I don't know what's going on there. Anthony Edwards has helped kind of eclipse that. The only part of his game I'd say he hasn't improved is the off the dribble shooting still feels weird. As a driver, though, the fact that he can just power through whatever type of spacing they have, and the fact that you take Mike Conley off the floor, you take Karl-Anthony Towns off the floor, and Minnesota's offense has had weirdness. It's still elite during those Anthony Edwards minutes.
Yeah, I just think, well, I was listening to the Thinking Basketball podcast. We're doing their all different types of defensive awards. And the point that Ben Taylor made, which I think is really goes to what you're saying, is he doesn't always do it. But when Edwards is super engaged late in a game on the ball, he might be the best point of attack defender in the world. Like he just, when he's got the switch flipped, you're not going through him. You're not going around him. That's it. He is in front of you the whole time. You cannot athletically beat this guy. I think that leaves, now that's awesome. And it goes to his case, but it also you still sometimes, maybe this is just me, but do you get the sense sometimes that Edwards is almost leaving money on the table by not just channeling that 100% of the time? And that goes into some of his shot selection that gets a little, blasé sometimes, but
the offensive stuff, it does feel like he can bail out defenses.
Yes.
But
with that shooting you're talking about,
when you look at all he's responsible for on the offensive end, I kind of understand how you can't bring it consistently or as consistently on defense. And let's use Kawhi as an example. You diminished his offensive creation responsibilities this year. And what happened? This is probably, I know part of it is he played, but this is the best defensive season I think Kawhi's probably had as a Clipper.
Yeah, maybe.
So I kind of under, but the offense stuff for sure, it feels like the leaving money on the table is a good way to phrase it, where he can bail out offenses sometimes. The Steph inclusion, it ended up, so I had him, it came down to when I was doing my third team, there were three players. Well, there was 4 or 5 players I considered for the quote unquote, final, my final 2 spots. I had Book and Anthony Edwards were just stone cold locks for me. I think I had one. I didn't have one. These were my 3 locks. No, it was Book and Ant were my locks. With Steph, I think you have to also mention, and you had 2 of these. So do you want to reveal your other 2? Because I did consider the other 2 you had.
Yeah, I had Tyrese Halliburton and I had Paul George as my last 2 all NBA third teamers.
So I struggled with Halliburton. By the way, he looked like a top 5 MVP ballot lock just a few months ago, but we are officially at the point where his post-injury sample is now larger than his pre-injury sample. And the numbers just haven't ticked up enough. But then I grappled with the fact of, well, it's not just him trying to play through injury. He's had to move off the ball more since the Siakam trade, and also the Hield trade impacted that. Does he deserve credit for it? His season-long numbers are right there, and it ultimately came down to him or Steph. That's why I was stumbling over my words for my final spot. I look at Steph, and he now has the higher true shooting percentage. He is scoring more. Halliburton hasn't beat in assists. Halliburton is responsible for creating more of his own offense than Steph is. But when you look at the work Steph has to go through just to get the ball because of what that does to defenses, that has Halliburton beat, and that swayed it for me, coupled with he played some more minutes. And I think he's been the steadier all NBA type of talent this year. And I recognize all of that is because of factors beyond Halliburton's control. That's also for me, I look at it as if you put Hallie on here, that's totally fine. But that's also the breaks. Like, I think I'm in a position where I can make that decision and say this because that's just how this works when we're talking about the all NBA stuff.
Yeah, he wasn't an easy inclusion for me. I would say that Steph was much easier, and actually, I think Paul George might have been easier, just because like Paul George might be having one of the most underappreciated. I mean, it's the story of his career, right? He's the best like 1B that you're ever going to find. But like his 3-point shooting's up over 40%. He's getting you 22 and like 5 and 5. It's still awesome off the ball as a defender. Just like Paul George takes nothing. You know, if Anthony Edwards leaves some money on the table, Paul George takes nothing off the table. He's good at everything. Maybe he's not great at any one thing, but like he's a B+ to A- just across the board in like all basketball skills. And he was healthy enough this year, just barely. But like, I think Paul George is one of the 15 best players in the league this year. Like that doesn't feel like it needs to be a controversial statement.
No, and I did consider him. It felt like, and because he's not responsible for as much of the Clippers' offensive livelihood, I struggled with that. But I struggled more so. It feels like he's not where like look what Kawhi did defensively this year. I don't know that Paul George has been on his usual level. And when you look at the Clippers' defense in some, it kind of supports that as well. So that's just, again, it was splitting hairs, but that's why I ultimately left him off. I'm with you in the sense that we'll have honorable mentions, but he made my 4th team. I had a mock for what Hallie and Paul George were among the first names I put on my 4th team. I did have 2 names that you did not. So I had Domas Sabonis on here. And so this is another example where I feel like if you want to say you think, let's just Paul George is better in a vacuum than Domas Sabonis, you'd rather have Paul George for the playoffs. That's fine. This is a regular season individual honor for me. And the only other player in NBA history to average as many points, rebounds, and assists for an entire season as Domantas Sabonis is Will Chamberlain. And if you're going to put yourself in Wilt's company while playing the second most minutes of anyone in the entire NBA, yeah, I do agree with, and I know some Kings fans do not agree with this, and they're pretty, I don't want to use the word sensitive, that feels overly critical, but they take issue with it, is no, I don't think Domas Sabonis is the type of primary option that I think is easier to shut down because he doesn't generate his own shot in the ways that other guys can. That is absolutely, it's not even a flaw, but it's a shortcoming relative to other guys. That to me is more of an MVP thing. Though, if you were like, why isn't he top 10 on your MVP ballot or something? I'm looking at the numbers, the availability, they're gaga, quite frankly. And so I ended up, I looked at those, he gets in. I think that's what I wrote too. I was like, I wrote the Wilt thing. I said, he gets in. End of story. We can move on.
Yeah, I've said enough things to upset people about Sabonis. I would just, the only pushback I would have is that I think we share the perception that like if he's your best player, you're in a little bit of trouble. Like in terms of trying to compete with other teams who have these other guys that we've listed as their best players or second best players. The Kings, I believe this still to be the case. I know for sure when Fox plays without Sabonis, the Kings are good. When Sabonis plays without Fox, they get steamrolled. And in general, I'm fairly sure that Sabonis's on-court net rating is negative. Now, there's noise, but the sample is huge, as you mentioned. I can't, it's so hard to dismiss the counting stats though. And like what he does functionally in that offense. So I as like,
he's shooting like 40% on low volume. Like that.
Yeah, but nobody guards him out there still. Like I take your point. I think it's defensible. Like I'm not going to fight you on it. I just think like the numbers are so crazy that like, and if you do watch the Kings, like he is the hub, like he is the guy that makes that offense function. It's totally defensible. I think the numbers overstate his impact on winning. And maybe that's like not the most important, weirdly, not the most important thing for all NBA. I don't know. Everybody knows where I stand on him. Who is your fifth third teamer here?
So I went with Jaylen Brown, and I think he's kind of had not maybe it's not underrated, but under the radar season. This is not, oh, the Lakers and Suns got two all NBA players. So of course the Celtics, the best team in the NBA, had to get it. He didn't start off the season too well, but like basically for the last 60 something games, he's been really good from three. His counters inside the arc have never been better. The passing shortcoming is still there, but I also think that like we don't appreciate his defense enough because it kind of gets lost in it's the Tatum stuff where it's well, there's also Tatum and Derek White and Drew Holiday and even Kristaps and Al Horford there. His defense has been like I think aside from Drew Holiday, he's actually been the player on the Celtics who has spent the most total time against the other team's top option. But what really sold it for me is that he is more of a self-sustaining offensive player than people credit him for. And you almost, I find it odd, and I'm guilty of this too, that we don't talk about that more because when you look like one of the Celtics' weaknesses on offense is just like the playmaking hierarchy is weird. Derek White and Jason Tatum as your primary passers are like, that's just it's not a bad place to be. Like the Celtics have the best record in the league, but it's can get awkward at points during crunch time. But like Jaylen Brown with the spins and the fades, and he has the step back, the ability to get all the way to the bucket, like having the mid-range stuff, being able to work off the catch, but hitting the pull-up three. I just feel like his offensive arsenal is so deep. And look, the passing stuff is still, it's a concern. You could point to things that he's done that he's gotten better at. It's still a concern, but he's just been really fucking good this year. And I just the whole after Ant and Devin Booker, this was just such a mess of I thought about Wemby a little bit. I thought about Tyrese Maxey. I already mentioned Paul George, Halliburton. So it's just there's a mess of names that could go here. I actually think this season, more than last season when he made All NBA, that he's been one of the 15 best players in the league.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I definitely on my honorable mentions, I initially had just like pick a Celtic. If it wanted to be Derek White, cool. If it's Jaylen Brown, great. Porzingis, I think fell short. I think
he's ineligible.
Yeah.
If anyone cares, very quickly. So these are the names that I said I think I would have considered if they met the eligibility.
There's a big one too.
Yeah, and they're varying degrees. This is alphabetically. Desmond Bane, Scotty Barnes, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid. Brandon Ingram is not there yet, but I don't think he's coming back until Sunday, which I think means he will miss it, but it doesn't matter. He wouldn't have made it anyway. Kyrie, Larry Markkinen, Donovan Mitchell's a big one. Yeah, him and Embiid were the biggest ones to me. Although I guess the way he's played since coming back, but then Jamal Murray, Kristaps, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Trae Young.
Yeah, pretty good. You can put together a pretty solid 5 out of that group. There's at least a handful. Certainly Embiid would have been, Embiid would have simplified this whole thing. He would have just been a first teamer. And then we wouldn't have had to hem and haw over Tatum versus Brunson versus Kawhi versus whatever.
Do you want to know what my 4th team would have been because I had to write about it?
Yes.
So it was Tyrese Halliburton, Paul George, Victor Wembanyama, which is just, we're going to talk about him, so I'll move on. But he absolutely, to me, is a top 20 player right now. I have Tyrese Maxey in there. I don't know if that's spicy. And then J-Dub was on my 4th team.
Yeah.
Did he get any consideration from you throughout this entire process?
Did J-Dub?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put together a 4th team too because I wanted to be as cool as you. So I had I had Jaylen Brown on that. That was my pick of Celtic. I ended up with Jaylen Brown there in honorable mention. J-Dub obviously is also there. Wembanyama is also there, but I had Adebayo and Gobert.
Adebayo is a good one.
I just think you remember when it used to be like an okay thing to say defense is half the game. So obviously the best defensive player is as valuable as, LeBron or whatever. That's not really true. Like a replacement level center is like easier to find than a replacement level, like first option shot creator. That's just the way the NBA works. But Rudy Gobert was the best defensive player in the league this year. And he can be on the 4th team for me. There's enough value in that he can make my 4th team.
That's
similar with Adebayo because he provides so much more offense than Gobert does. In addition to I think I have him in the top 3 or 4 for defensive player of the year. So
I just can't get there with his offense to where you could say that he's not detrimental to the offense, but I don't see
that's the best
material. I don't see enough material ways that he elevates your offense.
Sure. Yeah, that's why he has to be the best defensive player in the league to get 4th team consideration.
Well, honestly, if you viewed it, if that was your case where Rudy Gobert is the runaway defensive player of the year in a season where Bam, Anthony Davis, and Victor Wembanyama have all just been incredible. I'm talking about big specifically, like Jalen Suggs, Derek White, whoever. Like, if you said he's on my third team because of that, I would have been like, yeah, okay, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I couldn't go that. There's just like it's so hard to put him in. Like, you really gonna put him in there over for me? It'd be like, I guess probably Halliburton is the guy you'd kick off if you were gonna get crazy like that. But there might be other guys I'd consider before Gobert if I were knocking Halliburton off. But like, I'm not taking Steph off. I'm not taking Anthony Davis off my third. Like it got too tight there.
This is totally unrelated. Do you think Halliburton makes All NBA? I know you picked him, but do you think I kind of feel like he's going to just, I won't call it like shenanigans, but it's when there's money at stake.
Yeah.
I feel like there's kind of an obligation from voters who have the official votes, which is, it's an uncomfortable position to be in, but if you agree to have your vote, although Stephen A. Smith, I think, has a vote, and he thought Quentin Grimes was still on the Knicks when he was talking the other night. So that was
yeah. I think he will.
I'm with you.
I think it's just because voters, it's an interesting thought experiment now, because voters are like, you are in a position of giving someone $50 million or denying them $50 million.
Yeah.
Like, don't be a dick. Like, just do it. Like, I think there's going to be enough voters that look at it that way. And there'll be some like me that'll just say like, yeah, I think he did enough in the beginning of the year, and he's been a little better lately, to where I didn't really make my Halliburton case, I guess. Like, he's just, as a driver of offense, like when he was right, there's a reason he was like 5th in MVP voting, like informally, at the time. So like, I think even a diminished version of Halliburton is
player
usually
if he never got hurt.
Yeah.
That's because, especially because we talked about, I was lamenting, but I regret not picking J-Dub to win most improved players. I just called him a top 20 NBA player, or at least fringe there. And so he went from runner-up of rookie of the year, where maybe he was top 50, to making the jump into the all NBA discussion. That doesn't count. I would have picked my 2 top picks weren't eligible, Scotty Barnes and Jalen Johnson. But Tyrese Halliburton is another one where if he never gets injured, if those 2 had remained ineligible, I might have just gone with that version of Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, like, he like took himself out of most improved because he just almost like he just transcended that award and was in consideration for a much bigger one. And it's like, well, he's gonna get MVP consideration. We don't need to think about him. And he kind of fell out of the most improved discussion. I think that's right. He had a real case.
Where do you want to go to next? We want to do all rookie next, right?
Yeah, let's do all rookie.
This was, I don't want to say it was easy, but I think it was way easier than all NBA. I'll tell you that much.
Let's see. I don't know how much overlap we had. Yeah, we had a fair amount of overlap.
So I think we could start pretty easily with, I think we have the same 3 like guys on which are just, I would say, inarguable in my opinion. I guess you could I'd be curious which players people would vote against when it comes to Wemby, Brandon Miller, and Chet Holmgren. Just, I guess Miller's spot on the first team is the shakiest of the bunch, but I don't really have a good case for going against him.
No, I don't either. I think, there are like they're all locks to me. Like Wemby and Chet are in just kind of a separate tier, but yeah, like you would have to really blow me over, like with I don't know what the argument would need to be that Miller doesn't belong on the first team. Like he was so much more than we thought he was going to be. It looks like
the mid-range jumper, the 3-point shooting held up. The defense was, Charlotte was a train wreck defensively for most of the year, but just in terms of like one-on-one forcing the ball out of opponents' hands, even if I don't call it off ball, but it's like he knows this player's trying to get the ball, but he's able to deny it, because his off-ball defense can be a little spacey, but the being involved in the direct stuff, which, by the way, comes back to the point, because Chet and Wemby are right here. The defense from this rookie class, is it all time great? It has to be, just anecdotally.
I don't know what the numbers what numbers you'd even need to figure that out, but just anecdotally, like, we're going to talk about some, like, we haven't even got to we've got, in my mind, Chet and Wemby are the 2 best defensive players in this class, but are most impactful. But there's some other guys that have ceilings that are way up there too. One of which made my first team. Maybe that's a segue. I had Amin Thompson here.
Do you want to who are your last 2, since we have different 2? So who are your 2?
Oh yeah, I had Amin Thompson and I had Brandon Pajemski.
You had a Warrior? Shocking.
Yeah, well, get ready, Dan. He won't be the last. I think Pajemski had some ups and downs, but played a ton. He won a starting job over a guy that the team in Klay Thompson did not want to take the starting job away from. Um, all the like makes the right play, hustles. I think still leads the league in charges drawn, despite
He
like
does.
significantly fewer minutes than a lot of other guys on that list. There are holes in his game. Some of the shot creation is going to be iffy because of his size and athleticism. Finishing will always be tough for him, but we're not talking about guys that have to have all NBA ceilings. This is, for me, it's a little. I guess we never talked about criteria. Some of it is like, how well did you play this year, and some of it is, I think, implicitly, how good is this guy going to be? Like, do we need to make sure we put this guy on an all rookie team so sort of we're on the right side of history? There's a little bit of that. But I just think he was really productive. He contributed. He played. Contributed to winning on a team that is going to be, 10-ish games over 500. So yeah, Pods was a fairly easy inclusion for me. Thompson was harder because, we'll get into some of the names on the second team here that I think could have gone ahead of him. But the passing, the athleticism, the defense, the rebounding, what position even is this guy? It looks good everywhere kind of thing. Other than the shooting, he just feels like an almost perfect, next generation NBA prospect to me.
Yeah, he was just the playing time for me was tough because I try to very much make all rookie about just this season, which is why, because if I was scaling ahead, Cam Whitmore might be on the first team. About
yeah, if you were looking ceilings only.
Right, and but Amen Thompson would be right there because he is so good defensively already. You mentioned all the off-ball stuff he's able to do on offense now too. But the minutes there, and I know he has the games played, and just he's inching. Is he over 1,500 minutes played now? So maybe I should be moving him up to the first team at this point. I rounded mine out though with Jaime Jaquez and Cason Wallace. I know Jaquez, could he hit a three? And there's been some regression on the offensive end. He is just, I feel like he's similar to Pods, so balanced in how he can impact the game from all these different areas. But I feel like offensively, he might be the more versatile player right now. He can get you some buckets in the post. He can get you, he's just stronger overall. He has a different physical profile there. He's an above average score at the rim, 60th percentile, 72nd percentile for mid range, 57th percentile in transition, 74th percentile on post ups. And then the defense swung it for me. Just because I know Pods is going to be the better playmaker, even though Hawk is a very good connective passer and even has some live dribble stuff to his name. But just Hawkins is defending really good stars. He's second on the Heat also in total deflections. He ruins all these kickouts, lobs, entry passes, the whole nine. And the fact that he's taken on these higher profile assignments and it just never looks like he's overtaxed, that really matters to me. And so if we're talking about ceilings, I don't know where I put him. I will say people talk like he's 80 years old. He's 23. He could still get better. So, but I thought this was an easier case to make, probably pre All-Star break, but I still think he belongs there. And then Cason Wallace, he's a regular member for the rotation of one of the 5 most threatening title contenders in the league. And the on-ball stuff is not something that stands out because Oklahoma City doesn't need it to. I think he's shown some, good passing, some gnarly footwork once he gets into traffic. He needs to be more aggressive looking for his own shot on drives, but he can hit threes, lights out from the corner, and he just defends his ass off. When you look at, he can guard up, he's guarded some pretty big players. I know he's coming off the bench, but he's found himself in some, they will throw him on an island, and I know it's different when you have Chet behind you a lot of the time, but no, we're not going to send him any help. It's Cason Wallace. He's going to be able to hold his own. So just the plug and play nature on offense, plus I don't want to call it defensive dominance, but the breadth of work and the difficulty of it. I think even looking at, there are guys who have played more minutes, he still kind of holds off the Pods, Amen Thompson tier for me.
Yeah. I wonder if I just got maybe if I got bored with Cason Wallace, because it's he was really helpful and really good and making threes and defending from day one, and he just did that the whole year, and we sort of he was a set it and forget it. We don't need to think about look what Asar Thompson did, look what Amen Thompson did. Oh, Pods took another charge, and then Wallace just goes about his business doing all the things he said he was doing. I did put him on my second team, so I had
Pods and Amen Thompson on my. I will say, even as we're speaking, I like just want to bump off Kaysen or Hawkins for Amen Thompson. It's such a weird impulse to have, but I'm trying to stick to what
Yeah.
my feelings were. I like it's so easy to fall because Kaysen Wallace, I think more so than Pods, more so than Hawkins, definitely more so than Amen Thompson by virtue of availability. He's had the steadier wire to
Right.
wire constant rookie season, right?
For sure. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he was just there. You sort of, I didn't really even think of him as a rookie that much. It's like, well, they don't ask him to do that much, but he's great at what they demand of him. And it's like that's a solid NBA role player right now. He just, oh yeah, right. This is his first year in the league.
Honestly, Josh Giddey has been playing well lately. I'm just like, nah, you get rid of Giddey. Like this Casey Wallace
Yeah.
is the guy. I wonder if I'm overcompensating because I was against how much the Thunder gave up, and it amounted to a lot of it was cap space to get him to move. Like, and it's oh no, Sam Presti apparently knows what he's doing. Shocker.
A little bit, yeah. So we had a couple commonalities here. We both had Derek Lively. We both had Asar Thompson on our second teams.
Yeah, the Derek Lively case got a little bit harder after he dealt with injuries. They traded for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, which ate into his playing time. But I still think he is one of the most fundamentally sound rookies, which just like to say that about someone in this class is kind of wild. And he's so smart. You look at like this player, it's a very cerebral player. The way he knows where to be or his floor awareness, like depending on Dallas's lineups, it's off the charts for me. Knows what to do in terms of connecting or slipping screens, but he's also positioning himself away from the ball properly when Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving go to work independent of those screens. And then it's okay. Yeah, he's basically a rim runner, slipper, whatever you want to call on offense, but like he gets putbacks. He has the transition touches. He made some waves as like, oh, catching the ball in the center of the floor and shot. I think he was over 50% on hook shots, and he might be done for the season, by the way. I think that came out recently. I also think that this speaks to the point of rookie defense. Him and Asar Thompson both, quite frankly, he was a really good rim protector as a rookie. Opponents are shooting 58.5% at the hoop against him. That's a rock solid mark. That's right in line with what Daniel Gafford's doing since he came over to the Mavericks. So I can't say enough good things about him, and I'll let you maybe lead it on if you have anything to add, and then plus the Asar Thompson case because he hasn't played in quite some time with that blood clot issue.
Yeah, I think for Lively, what I'd say is Gafford being so effective in a weird sort of hurt him because I think if we had done this, and we probably did do this, before the All-Star break, when by the way Lively was still I think 19. He's turned 20 like 2 months in the middle of February, so it seemed like he was third or fourth probably in rookie of the year, I think, for a good chunk of it, because like what you said, like, oh my God, this guy is anchoring a defense. Rookies are supposed to be terrible defensively. Rookie big men especially cannot be relied upon. He's catching all these lobs. And then Gafford kind of came in and did the same things, and to some extent, like did some of them better. But that doesn't, I don't know that that's fair, that detracts from how good Lively was. And the playing time ultimately is going to hurt him too. But I think he was a clear second pick. Asar Thompson, just like, again, before he went out, we were talking about him like this guy's going to be one of the best defenders in the league for like 10 years. He's going to make all defensive teams every single season. It's a lot of the Amen Thompson stuff, just without quite as much offensive feel, I think would probably be the main distinction. And also like Asar was not set up to succeed in Detroit. Like some of the lineups they had him out there with just made his lack of shooting like a really exploitable weakness. So like, well, nobody was set up to succeed in Detroit. So I think maybe him and Amen would have had more similar seasons had the circumstances been different. My last guy,
by the way, really quickly, just to reiterate your point on Asar Thompson, they played the Pistons only 350 possessions with him and Cade and then Stewart at the 5, which was really their only kind of stretch 5 option, unless you count the Gallinari like stint there. And so you're talking about not being set up to succeed. He still shot 55% on drives and had an assist rate north of 10 on those. So I like him as a ball mover and someone who could do that, but his offensive fit long-term, again, doesn't impact this as much. It needs to be optimized. The pitches could do a better job of doing it, but like I was a believer in his jumper, by the way, coming in more so than Amen's at the beginning of the year. And now it's with both these dudes. I don't know which one of them is more likely to figure out. If
It's
either.
really hard. Like odds are neither, probably just from the early indications, like the mechanics of the shot and just the percentages are what they are. They're, it feels like really long odds that either one becomes a 3-point shooter that defenses care about, which is like, I don't know what the percentage needs to be, but they are not going to be guarded as conventional wings.
Yeah.
Like unless something drastic changes. I don't know how likely that is. But they both prove they have legit value without a shot this year. So like, that doesn't, it puts a cap on their ceilings, but it's still like pretty high or about as high as it can be for a non-shooter. Well, I'll just give you mine. My last guy is Trace Jackson Davis. We were talking before. I didn't like. I really wanted to just Keontae George played a huge role. I should put him here. Jackson Davis, some of the per minute stuff is unbelievable. Like he's been starting again, like another rookie has taken over a starting job for a guy the Warriors do not want to bench. And awesome lob threat. Somehow blocks a ton of shots despite like just always looking like and really being built like a 4 that's sort of undersized. Like I don't know if he's a true center, whatever that means anymore, but he really does get the most out of like good timing, athleticism, like quick jumps, good hands, at least defensively good hands. Yeah, I mean, he's just been like a regular starter for a Warriors team that has been playing really well lately and, shoots 1,000,000% from the field. I think, if there were another guy, like if Keontae George had shot it better, I think I probably would have put him there. But I think Jackson Davis, I know you had a stat about like some of the per minute stuff. And I think I'm fairly sure that other than Wembanyama, Jackson Davis, now this is again, not a cumulative stat, but he's second among rookies in EPM. And while you talk a little bit about your other Jackson Davis stat, I'm going to look up estimated wins here and see where we're at. That's more cumulative.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just a Trace Jackson Davis stat, by the way. This is also just a holy fuck, this rookie class is wild stat. So it's among, excuse me. So among all rookies, like the only people to ever match his block, assist, and rebound rates are Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren.
Pretty good.
That's a pretty good place to be. I struggled with him because when you look at it, just the minutes for me, I think he's 19th in total minutes played among rookies. And that's the stuff that I struggle with there. But you're right. The stuff that's really impressed me, I know he doesn't do complicated stuff on offense, but he's done some handoffs. And then also just being able to play off of either non-shooters or questionable shooters in the front court when he's a non-shooter himself, having the floor awareness there, I think is important. So I made fun of you before we started for putting him here. I might have called you a homer, but
I called myself a homer for the record. I admitted to it. Yeah, I would just say too, like by the way, he's 5th in EPM among rookies. So not second, certainly good enough to at least warrant consideration. His timing, like sometimes the things you look for in rookies, I think have to be sort of not as quantifiable. Like if you're just like, how good is this guy at like the actual like task of playing NBA basketball? And TJD has, as a role guy from a bunch of different angles, has established specifically with Klay Thompson, like phenomenal chemistry and timing as a role man, and his ability to finish around defenders. Being left-handed helps, I think, because he just kind of comes at it from angles that most guys are just like, oh shit, he's a lefty, he went around me. But he gets up for lobs. He's just like quick up off the floor around the rim, just like a lot of little things where, actually, to be honest, it like when you watch him play, it really is kind of baffling that he went as late as he did. Like we're talking a guy like late 50s in the deep second round. And I just can't fathom how you would watch him as specifically just as a role man and not think like that's probably going to work.
So you don't think this is going to be like a Jordan Bell type situation?
I would be terrified to hear how high I was on Jordan Bell at certain points of Jordan Bell's career. Anthony Randolph, that's another one if you want to talk about other Warriors guys that didn't pan out.
So my 5th guy on the second team was, this will come as a surprise to no one who listens to this podcast, Bilal Coulibaly. Season ended a little bit earlier, but he did enough in the 60 plus games that he actually did play for me to say, no, like this is still the guy. Washington baptized him by fire on the defensive end. He handled a lot of really tough assignments, and he's not even super strong yet. He will get stronger. He didn't really look super taxed. The efficiency on offense, it's not something that is going to be, it's not stand out at any level, but he hit more of his threes. That shot looks just a lot better in general from him. And like the 3-point shot, his drives can be a little bit chaotic, but he still is able to attack. I mentioned his 3-point shooting before. He did do a really good job of kind of just working from the corners. I think the other thing with him is that I was impressed just kind of as a decision maker offensively. Like they did some stuff. I mentioned TJD in the center floor. They would screen. They would have Koulibaly screen and catch the ball on a short roll or in the center of the floor and then try to dish these passes. And I thought he did a pretty good job on that. And so you combine that with just the type of players he went toe-to-toe with on the defensive end. I was a little bit disappointed that they didn't make him more central to the offense as the season went on. But through the 63 appearances, I do think that he was one of the 10 best rookies in the league.
Yeah. I would say that like Brandon Miller being, it turning out that like comparing him to Paul George is a huge compliment as opposed to like a knock on why he shouldn't have been the second pick. That's more consequential in terms of like, oh, he's a different type of thing than we thought. But Koulibaly coming in projected to be like, this guy is like the rawest, like this guy does not know like which end of the court to run down type of things. You hear just ridiculous, not specifically that, but like this guy's got so far to go. And he was like, saying Koulibaly was polished is like a little bit too much, but he was so much more like developed and refined than we were led to believe coming into the season. So like, yeah, it's not quite the same thing as Miller, but like I actually made a last second correction because we're going to talk about third teams here. I blew it and didn't have Koulibaly on my third team. I just I kicked off Duop Reith from the third team, not to jump too far ahead, but I have to have Koulibaly on my third team.
Yeah, so we had who did you? Well, I guess so. Now we have 3 overlaps, and I'll fix your other one. So we have 3 overlaps on them. If you want to talk about,
we've got 4.
Well, we don't anymore because you kicked off Reith.
You don't have Reith on. Oh, did you put Reith in at the last second? I'm looking at the doc.
Yes. Well, I guess I'll throw that now. So I have Reith as well. I mean, stretch big, and he did a lot of good stuff for the Portland Trail Blazers. I thought he was able to defend in space pretty well too. So I ended up putting him over. Cam Whitmore was another guy I'd consider, but again, just the minutes and games played for me, that ended up being not like a deal breaker, but that is what was, super tough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I had Reith over Koulibaly, but I moved Koulibaly in for him. I did include Whitmore. I guess it's pretty clear from all these so far that like I'm a little less concerned with the volume of playing time than you are. I don't know that that's right or wrong, but I think
that's fine. Yeah.
It's specifically with rookies. It's like, what did he show? And what Whitmore showed is like, I mean, I don't know what it's going to turn into. It may take, and it's going to take a while, but just the athleticism, the transition game, the ability to get off his threes, contested off the dribble from real deep. It just, I don't know. You understand why he was like, oh, this guy's a top 4, top 5 talent that slips to 20. And so like he showed enough to me to justify, like, maybe we'll see the downside. Maybe like the quote unquote character concerns and the knee issues and whatever that made him slip will crop up. But based on what we saw this season, like, I get it. I understand why he was regarded as highly as he was. So the other difference we had, well, I don't want to spoil yours. Who's your 5th guy that I don't have?
So you had Cam on there, which I just get. When you look at his physical tools and like the jump shot feels like it's going to be real, even if the off the dribble stuff isn't falling. And I respect someone who's just going to dunk on everyone. It was purely playing time for me. Very quickly, I know you did mention Keontae George, the efficiency, him struggling with it, and then part of that is on like Utah and the surrounding personnel with him. But I did feel like he got better progressively when you're looking at his decision making, kind of maintaining his dribble. But I question, is there going to be a ton of rim pressure from him? I think the efficiency will come around. He was second team. He was probably first team for me at one point, just for so long. So it's not, leaving him off. It was just tough. Tamani Kamara is just a defensive beast, by the way. And he's shooting like 33.7% from deep on okay volume. And if that could come up at like 2 or 3 percentage points, woof. And I would like to see them use him as more of a big man on offense sometimes, like as a screener, which when you have 8 in there or if Duop Reith is there, you're not necessarily going to do. So more Tumani Kamara at the 5, please. And then the other guy, by the way, Gigi Jackson, I'm We should do a 2023 redraft, like, because it's interesting in the sense of it's no longer about just the best players yet because we only have 1 year sample size. So you're still kind of waiting the long term. This guy, there's questions about his on-ball dynamism. I don't know what that's going to end up being, but he's 6'9". He defended everyone from a Stephen Curry or De'Aaron Fox to a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander to a Cade Cunningham. But he also defended LeBron, Paolo Banchero, and he shot 37% on his catch and shoot threes. Or is it just like that's what you want? Like that's literally
that's a player
just
I am interested in.
I do want to see what he looks like. Where if they want to play him next to Jaren Jackson Jr. without another big or with, I want to see more of what they look like at full strength when he's there. But he actually, when I'm looking at this list, might have been the toughest for me to leave off of the second team. And then my final third team inclusion was Anthony Black. Just the offense isn't there. And he has hit his threes, but he's taken almost none of them. So the defense, the floor navigation on defense, the ability to suffocate, he's impossible to screen. I just think he was a part. His minutes could be a little bit all over the place, but the Magic are a good team with immediate aspirations. And the fact that he played at all when they have someone else in Jet Howard who spent his entire season in the G League, and Jet Howard, in theory, fills more of a need for Orlando than Anthony Black does. Matters to me. And so I had him there, but it wasn't again, Cam Whitmore, you could have considered there. I think other names to like would have popped up in this. Excuse me as I'm choking a little bit. Like a Grady Dick, Scoot Henderson. I think his job was tough. I didn't have Trace Jackson Davis anywhere. Vasily Micic could have been part of this. Marcus Sasser stood out. Even Ben Shepherd for what he's able to do defensively. There are a lot of this rookie class. I feel like maybe our impressions will change. We might look back and be like, whoa, this was a fantastic rookie class.
Yeah, I think your point earlier about defensively is I can't remember the last class that went this deep, because like rookies, it's such a trope. Like rookies you're lucky if a rookie doesn't kill you on defense, generally speaking. And like there's a bunch of like value add guys right now that all project to get even more impactful. So yeah, this is the best defensive rookie class that I can remember. That's like a risky thing to say because someone's going to, well, the 2016 was the, but still, yeah, I think a really deep rookie class too. This is going to be fascinating to do next year, by the way, because this next draft is supposed to be just absolute garbage, and it won't be. But I'll be curious to see if it's got anything close to this one.
We are on to, speaking of defense, we are on to all defense. So this was, I think on some level, I mean, it's hard because defense is so, I think, subjective. And then you're also at the mercy of your own limitations of what you understand that's actually happening. We had a bunch of overlap on these. We both had, I think, the easiest inclusion of all, I would argue, unless you think just is Rudy Gobert on the first team.
Yeah, it just has to be. He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like, it would be stunning if he didn't. So he's got to be there.
We had, I don't know why I listed them out of order for us, but we had 4 overlaps. Or no, our first team was the same. So we just
ran the table? We ran the table.
Yeah. So Bam, AD, Victor Wembanyama, Jalen Suggs. I don't know. Are there any controversial picks among these? I think Gobert. Let me go with Wemby here, because now we've gone through all rookie and all NBA. The Spurs are in basically the 80th percentile of defense when he's on the court.
Yep.
It's just, and by the way, they've also won his minutes since moving him to the 5, basically. That's another thing. But this is just someone, we've talked about it, fucks up your entire process by virtue of existing. And so, yes, I do think Bam and Anthony Davis are more dynamic because they don't have the same just ubiquitous physical presence. But like Victor Wembanyama is in the Rudy Gobert tier of, you're just so dominant, and yet he can do all these, like he can recover in ways that Rudy Gobert could only imagine. Even this version of Rudy Gobert, who has been just the hit mobility, the sliding, the feet, he's been incredible this year. I don't think it should be controversial to put him, by the way, unless I'm mistaken, the first ever rookie to make a first team all defense if it happens.
I mean, it has to happen. Like the physical profile one, like
is it disrespectful if it doesn't?
It would be disrespectful, 100%. The physical profile, like he can just reach to more areas of the floor. Like that's just, I know that's like not an interesting thing to talk about, but like he can cover more space than anyone really ever probably. And the fact that he can move with all that length is just like, that's one. The numbers are bonkers. Like the block and steal numbers historically are, you have to go to like David Robinson and like all the, just the all timers with the combination of blocks and steals that he has. I think we are underrating. I know, because I know like it was ugly in the beginning of the year when he was sort of anchored to Zach Collins as and he was the 4. But the stat you cited where the Spurs defend at like an 80th percentile clip when he's on the floor. So that's with personnel that's basically also terrible around him. It's not the same thing as like, well, Gobert elevates the Wolves to this level when he's on the floor. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, Jaden McDaniels is out there a lot of the time. Edwards is out there a lot. Like they also play 2 bigs, generally speaking, when everyone's healthy. That helps the defense. Wembanyama's out there with the Malachi Branhams of the world, like trying to like hold, play defense by himself. It's insane that if the number wasn't 80th percentile, if it was like 50th, I think we should still be bowled over because like the surrounding personnel is just like, in a lot of cases, like not NBA caliber. So you could argue that he's like, Rudy Gobert is the best defensive player on by far the best defensive team in the league. I wonder what the Wolves defense looks like if Wembanyama is in Gobert's place and he has those other guys around him. Like, is it better? I don't know. Like it's a possibility because his mobility, it's an unanswerable question, but like it's not a given that that Wemby would make that defense worse if he were in Gobert's place, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, with that talent, it wouldn't be. I don't know. You could say, wouldn't they be better? I don't like.
It would still
get any better than what they are,
right? It's I mean, I don't know what the argument. Like, I guess you'd say, he makes more mistakes because he's young and like he can be bullied a little more than Gobert, but like we're picking real small nits here at this point.
And look, we picked Gobert for Defensive Player of the Year because I think that that's the right call. But this might be the best way to frame Wemby's case. It says a lot that if you're talking about the Spurs going after Trae Young or Darius Garland, it's not, how is Wemby going to be able to cover up for them defensively? It's with Trae Young specifically. Is he too ball dominant for the fit to work on offense? It has nothing to do with
like, will these new guys like mess him up as opposed to can he handle them being
Garland on offense wouldn't. I don't know why I included him.
No,
although this version of Garland, I don't know who he's helping on offense, to be honest with you. But
I feel like he's just didn't quite get right after getting hit in the face for the millionth time this year.
So among the other inclusions, I don't think any of them should be viewed as controversial, but there is a sentiment that Bam is wildly overrated on defense or more valuable in the postseason. I just think the amount of coverages the Heat run out, and now the fact that they're not, switching him as much, and yet he's still dominating, and he's improved his rim. Like, you want the raw drop coverage rim protection? Go look at the numbers. He's having his best season there too. I think he's having his best rim protecting season. Is there a more? I don't want to. There probably is, but like versatility, especially among bigs, is there more versatile? It might be Anthony Davis or Wemby's weird because is he versatile or is he an alien?
Yes. I think I'm not listening to a whole lot of arguments that Bam doesn't belong here. I think let's do the like which one of these doesn't belong approach to this. Like Jalen Suggs is the only guard here. I think by virtue of the fact that he is here, we're sort of acknowledging he's been the best defensive guard in the league this year, just all around. I don't think that there's some other guys in that conversation. I think what we should maybe wrestle with, and what I wrestled with, is like, does the best defensive guard deserve a spot on all defense first team over like the 5th best defensive big guy? Because just defensive bigs matter more. They have greater responsibilities. They have more of a chance to impact the overall defensive performance of a team. So like, should Suggs be here over Chet Holmgren, over Jared Allen, over like, I don't know, I'm struggling to come up with some other ones, but like, you know what I mean, right? Like that, I think if you put Suggs here, which we both did, we're kind of saying like he was that good at a position where the defensive value is just not as high to warrant this inclusion. I feel okay about it, but if I had to kick someone off, it probably would be him just because of the positional thing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, but the things that he does where it's the breadth of assignments, it is the pick sixes, steals, it's being able to kind of shut down someone else, where it's
Mhm.
not just he needs to be either on the second or third. Like, he will shut down the first best guy, while also, if he's not involved in the primary actions, he's going to help out all over the place. And I've also come to view, especially when you watch the Pelicans or even the Rockets this year, perimeter defense can be your form of rim protection.
Yeah.
And it
I mean,
just
that's
so
the case for
happens
Bam,
that,
right? A little bit. That's
yeah,
that's that's the Adebayo argument.
right. And so that's what Jalen Suggs does for the Magic, who just so happen to have talent elsewhere. One of them being Jonathan Isaac, who's not eligible for this award, or to be included in one of the two all defensive teams. I get what you're saying though, where if you had to knock him off, yeah, I can understand. But I look at, so big men might be responsible for more, which I guess in terms makes their role harder. But like Chet Holmgren, or even, well, actually Bam and AD would be, but like a Wemby or a Gobert, it's not, hey, go defend Steph Curry type.
Mhm.
Like, there has to be. I know Steph might get the best of you, but like there's a value in being able to do something like that to track movement shooters or primary ball handlers having to go through the pick and roll, or when teams are like trying to screen the hell out of you, and you're like the way that he can also, it's like navigating the screens and recovering and being able to bust up plays from behind or in front of it, or going stride for stride, like mobility wise with his hip. It's even, and you mentioned the other candidates. What separates him from Derek White or Herb Jones? I would say we're splitting hairs there,
Mhm.
but it's when you look at Derek White has had support in other instances where it feels like his role isn't as wide as Jalen Suggs is right now. So that matters to me. And with Herb, it feels like there's more of a, like, Herb might be the more dominant one-on-one defender. And if you need someone to kind of be at the basket and then get out to close out on a shot from beyond the arc, that's something that his size and his length will allow him to do. But if you kind of just need someone from anywhere on the floor, like at the outer levels, I think that Jalen Suggs is going to be better there. And it's splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah.
Your actual point though about, should this just all be, I don't know how to square that away. I don't honestly think you're wrong. I don't.
Yeah, no, I was just voicing like what I was kind of agonizing over as I did. I think I think Suggs is flat out great at every single thing you would want a guard to do defensively.
Even
Just
just like
like
the shot blocking element of it too.
everything on the ball, off the ball, like is how hard he plays, like he's physical, like you can't back him down. Like he's just like everything you would want a guy to do at that position. He's excellent at. So I think we got to acknowledge that a little bit. I'm glad we
It's
agreed on
kind
that.
of like what happened if Danny Green and Drew Holiday and Derek White were fused into one
Right.
defensive player, is what it feels
Yeah,
like.
and you just made him like a little meaner than all three of those guys. Like I don't know how you do that. But yeah, so second team is really interesting though, because you mentioned a couple that
Yeah,
you
we
could,
have 3 overlaps, so I'll throw those up on the screen right now.
yeah, which are Derek White, Herb Jones, and Alex Caruso. And I think you should pick your flavor because any three of those guys, I think you could make a case could take Suggs' spot on the first team. Um,
I think White and Herb have stronger cases than Caruso this year. I will say that to do
Yeah,
that.
I think that's probably, although Caruso is just like he's such a nightmare, like on the ball. He's just so, I mean, I don't know. He
He
might
just
be
doesn't.
harder to screen than Suggs, which is there. He might be the only guy that's
I
true of.
I guess, but it just watching him, and I haven't checked the data on this in quite some time. He doesn't scale like positionally across the spectrum as much as a Derek White or a Herb Jones or even a Jalen Suggs. And so again, splitting microscopic,
Yeah.
nanoscopic hairs.
Yeah, I mean Jones's length is a real asset. Like Caruso is a guard, and Jones is like you're good with Jones on someone that's 6'9". I don't know that that's true with Caruso or even really Suggs sometimes too. But yeah, so those were easy picks for me. We diverged on 2 though, and I love the guys you picked. So I'm uncomfortable now.
Can we do that? So what we should do, because I think we'll make one fan base happy, even though we each didn't include the same person, but we do have 2 Nuggets.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're not gonna piss anybody off here.
The KCP case is just, I think when you look at all these guys, he might be the most underappreciated one, because, and maybe even Aaron Gordon's in that. Like, are these the 2 most underappreciated names on this list for what they do? KCP is just like, it's year in and year out, and it's every single night when you're looking at having to defend the most difficult assignments, and he also does need to cover up for some stuff away from the ball, like behind certain guys. And I think he's still one of the better just transition, like getting back or knowing how to like making sure that he's matched up correctly, or just going stride for stride with guys, being able to handle where it's KCP, he kind of looks strong, but like the type of bodies he's able to go up against, it's quickness, it's physicality. It could be movement shooters. It could be the guys that are going north-south. It could be the east-west type deals. To me, he's one of the more underappreciated defenders in the league. But that's just me trying to make my case for why he's on my second team all defense. And he's been here. I mean, he was on this because we both had some changes since the last time we did this. Because I think I had Derek White on first team along with Suggs. Like KCP's been a constant for me, so maybe I'm just married to it.
No, I love KCP. You mentioned Danny Green. Like KCP really does feel like a new Danny Green. Although like Danny Green, it felt like if a guy was on a breakaway and Green was chasing him, he was gonna block the layup just like 100% of the time. KCP is not quite, but like that might have been like that's a singular skill that Green had. But like same idea, like he'll guard the one, he'll guard the two, he'll guard whoever they don't want to put Jamal Murray on. He's super quick, slithery around screens. Like he just, all these guys we're talking about just kind of don't really have flaws as guard defenders. I went with Gordon over KCP just because I think in isolation, and maybe I'm just watching, all the best moments of him. There's just not a matchup he can't stay in front of. Like the way people talk about OG Anunoby, and I think it's true when Anunoby is healthy, is like there's not like a player type that Gordon is overmatched against because he has, true, forward size, but moves his feet really well and is long and is really smart. I just think on the ball, he is a guy that I think enables Denver to do a lot of different things. Because if he gets switched on to someone that normally you'd worry about a four guarding, you just don't worry about it because he's going to either stay in front of the guy or recover and contest from behind or block a shot. He's such a complete, front court defender. So I went with him. So, but again, good job by us. Nobody from Denver is going to be mad because we hit both of these guys.
Imagine they'd be like, "Oh, where's Jokic on this?"
He's sixth in the league in deflections. Get him up there. Which is actually true. I think I saw that stat.
Do you want to reveal your final player who I had on my third? And by the way, I didn't clarify this with all rookie. If anyone's watching, we don't actually think there's a third team. It was just we had the third team set up for the all NBA, so I figured it'd be thrown on screen for the third teams for all rookies and all defense are honorable mentions.
We also did fourth team for all NBA.
I wonder if there's anyone who tuned out. These idiots think there's a third team for all rookie. I can't watch the rest of this.
We live in a participation trophy culture. We just want to acknowledge as many people as possible.
So yeah, we're going to get through our 4 through 6 teams in a second, so stay tuned.
I went with Chet Holmgren. Largely on the theory of like big guys really matter defensively. He's a good shot blocker, great feet. Like, again, same thing I talked about with Gordon. Like, he's not going to necessarily stay in front of guys like Gordon will, but he's longer and probably like longer strides, quicker, is going to block shots from behind, hard to beat, great help side defender. I love that he's been dunked on, but like he is not shying away from just going up and trying to be vertical and defend the rim regardless of who's coming at him. I think he's going to make some first teams, in the next few years, just because he's going to provide what you want from a conventional big guy with like a little, heavier sprinkling of some of the like versatility and stuff that we get from guys like Jones and OG and even Gordon.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. There's the talent around him. And this is another case actually where I don't know why I didn't frame it like this when we were talking about the Nuggets. I have a Thunder player here too. I also have another Thunder player on my third team, so I'll reveal him as well. J-Dub made my honorable mention team, and then I have Lou Dort on my second team here. Lou Dort still covers the toughest assignments. He is just so incredibly difficult to move. His flaw or the crack in his case could technically be, well, he kind of lasers in because that's his role. But you know what? He could basically shut down anyone.
Yep.
And he can guard so many different types of best players because of just how strong and girthy he is, but also while maintaining that quickness and explosion, whether he's moving laterally, whether he's moving on his back feet. He has been incredible. And with J-Dub, I think if you dig into it, some people look at, well, his counting stats defensively are down. The difficulty of his assignments is now harder, and it feels like he's just a much smarter defender in terms of staying in front of guys who are attacking against him. Screen navigation's gotten better to me, but then also just, I don't even want to call the recovery so much as like the deliberate, well, I'm going to slide my feet and I'm going to give this guy the baseline or force him baseline, or I know that I'm going to be able to contest his shot while being attached to his back hip or the side of his hip. And it just feels like his IQ is not that he was dumb last year. I want to make that clear, but his IQ is just ratcheted up. I mean, both ends of the floor, technically. I don't think he had Chet would have made second team over him. And just because I haven't listed him second, I don't know that he was my toughest snub, but he was someone who it's like, oh, the Thunder just have 3 all defense candidates.
Well, and he didn't make either of our fictional third teams, but SGA led the league in steals by like a lot. And there were a lot of people saying this, and like was blocking shots, one of the better guard shot blockers in the league. There are going to be people that are upset that the Thunder don't have 4 guys being mentioned here. So I mentioned him. SGA was a consideration for me. I had Dort on my third team, my fictional third team. I think
that's your real life third team
overlap of yours. I didn't put Jalen Williams just because I feel like I've exceeded my quota of saying nice things about Jalen Williams on this podcast. So I'm going to take it easy for a while.
I'll reveal all of yours. I'll let it slide, but the fact that you just picked 2 players who are ineligible to be on awards ballots.
3 teams not real, Dan. Don't care.
So you have Kristaps, Jared Allen, Jaden McDaniels, and Isaac. Both Kristaps and Isaac aren't eligible for the real. I will say he's one of my favorite writers, so I'm not even going to name him, but they were picking their all defense teams for the Ringer, and he wrote that he had Jonathan Isaac, and he's not ineligible, but that's a minor matter. And I saw it, I was like, that's not really a minor matter. You selected him for one of the all defensive teams that he physically or literally can't be
not
on.
allowed to be
a major matter.
That's why you say
fine if you disagree with the criteria, but it's just the criteria is the criteria.
Nope. That's why you make up a third team so you can get them on there. Just like
again, I did. So I originally had poop emojis in the KP and Isaac spots, but then I was like, yeah, it's the amount. If he put them on second team, I might have left it.
Yeah. Who are your other 3?
So I also had I have Jaden McDaniels on there, and then I have Drew Holiday and Dylan Brooks, which is wild that the Rockets were so good on defense. And is there another candidate other than Dylan Brooks?
I mean, some people would say Van Vliet just because he's such a terror on the ball and has such good hands. But like, I mean, not a.
Amen Thompson hasn't played enough. To be there. Tari Eason, had he played enough, might have been.
That would have gotten interesting. Then, I mean, he would have been up there too. And you got any other like honorable mentions? You got any 4th teamers?
I have a long list that I don't really want to go through and name, but like Isaac Okoro was on it. I had Jared Allen on my long list as well. I mean, I have where's the document that I have with all of them? Did you have anyone?
Holiday, we haven't. Oh, you put Drew on there. Good. I didn't have him on one of mine. Trying to think anybody else. I mean, like Asar Thompson. Like had he qualified, like I think he probably would have made one of my teams just because he was so disruptive early in the year. If he'd sustained anything close to that.
Yeah, I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr. for most of the season, he might have had a stronger case before the end of it. That's someone who definitely deserves like some type of a mention.
Oh, like Chris Dunn, Dennis Smith Jr., more guys that I think Dunn probably didn't. I don't know if either of them qualified, but they're not quite on the Caruso, Suggs, Derek White level, but they're right behind that, I think, in terms of on-ball guys.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that I can't even find my list that I had. Is this? Nope, I have no idea what it is. But yeah, there's so many different ways that you could have got. I mean, I'm sure, I feel like we're forgetting someone major that maybe should have been included, like in the. I mean, Giannis, if you wanted to mention him.
Yeah, Giannis is someone we should have thought about. I think we got most of them. We got. I mean, certainly like our first and second teams. I feel like there's no one we grossly overlooked.
I will say when you kind of look at the top defensive teams, so you didn't even have a Rocket on there. We only mentioned one Pelican, and they are 6th in points allowed per possession. We didn't have anyone from Cleveland make it, and so it's interesting that so many of the top. I don't think we had so Oklahoma City. You had multiple players. Oh no, you didn't. We each only had one Thunder player.
No, so we had 2. Oh, that's right. We only had 2. Yeah, they could have had 4.
So it's interesting how that works. I don't know if that just might say more about how they're defending by committee, but I don't think it's a coincidence when you look at it for Houston and New Orleans specifically. It's the teams that are kind of absent of these elite rim protectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that makes that probably that goes back
Jalen
to
Brown, by the way, deserves an honorable mention for all defense too. He would be there. Would Jimmy Butler this season have gotten an HM or an HM for you if he'd played enough games? Probably not.
No, and the playoff Jimmy might, but yeah, not.
I don't know how I feel about that. By the way, that I find it very entertaining, but there's just something. Oh, by the way, big snub here because the statistics would demand it. Isaiah Hartenstein as an all
Yeah,
defense candidate.
you know what? That is. Whew. I mean, since I have two non-qualified players on my third team, I could probably kick one of them off because he did meet the criteria, right? Like through a weird loophole.
No. Oh, well, not a loophole. I mean, he's played in 74 games.
Well, I thought he
So.
had too many games of like too few minutes or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. OG, and he played the entire season. Oh, we didn't mention two names that need to stand out. Nikhil Alexander-Walker,
Mm-hmm.
who I think has a case. I know we both had Jaden on here. Like, you could probably make a case that I think I'm just too far skewed on Jaden. But if you had him on your second team, I wouldn't quibble. The other one, Draymond?
Yeah, I mean, again, didn't qualify, but
Yeah.
like in terms of he's not what he was, but he's still not what he was, still better than most. How about that? Anthony Edwards, like for the last 5 minutes of games, that version of him, I think would be up there.
I
That's
think,
probably
honestly, Kawhi Leonard.
yeah, yeah. Wow, we went all this way with no. This is the first Kawhi mention. That might be a little bit of an
We
oversight.
did
Yeah,
talk about his defense when it came to his all NBA case for
that's
what it's
true.
worth.
Yeah. Again though, like who are you kicking off from your first and second team for any of these? I don't think any of them.
And I'm also so looking at the Rockets. It's just we kind of said it. Atari Easton played more, maybe Fama Thompson played more, but you said Fred VanVleet. Who would be your second nomination for the Pelicans?
Does Dyson Daniels maybe?
Yeah, before his injury, that's a good one.
I don't know.
Maybe no, that's going to skew way too far. They've just
say
defended
Alvarado.
really well as a team, just from Zion the past couple months, but what Ingram was doing, even what CJ McCollum has done.
Murphy, I think the Pelicans are just the
fine.
ultimate like by committee thing. There's just they got 11 or 12 guys that can all play. Like that's how it goes.
Time for stat padding. We're going to do a couple of guess players. Grant, do you want to go first? We'll alternate.
Yes. This is for you, Dan. This is from Rubik's Gal. Clue number 1. A little different format for the clues here. So just, be on your toes. June 2004, drafted by the New York Knicks. Want to guess?
June 2004. No, I don't know. I feel like it's already going to make me sad. Is that David Lee?
It is not David Lee. I don't know. I can't remember what year he was.
I don't remember what year he was either, but
you're in the neighborhood though. I mean, I think
I'm
not
not
trying
to
give
say
you
that he's Caucasian. I don't
no.
know.
In terms of draft year, I'm not giving you any deliberate hints here. Clue number 2, February 2006, traded with Penny Hardaway to Orlando for Steve Francis.
Wait, so traded with Penny Hardaway to Orlando. So he wasn't on the Knicks then. Because if he was drafted by the Knicks and he was traded, Steve Francis ended up on the Knicks, but they didn't have Penny Hardaway at that point. So traded with Penny Hardaway for Steve Francis. Okay. I got nothing. Keep going.
Okay, clue number 3, November 2007, traded to Lakers for Brian Cook and Maurice Evans.
Nope. Got nothing.
Okay. Clue number 4, August 2010, part of a 4-team trade involving Troy Murphy, Courtney Lee, Darren Collison, and James Posey.
Nothing.
Okay. Clue number 5, June 2012, traded to Washington along with Emeka Okafor for Rashard Lewis.
Traded to Washington with Emeka Okafor for Rashard Lewis. Traded to Washington with Emeka Okafor. Nothing.
Okay. July 2014, 3-team trade involving Omer Ashik and Omri Caspi, among others. That's a tough one.
Is this like just gonna start naming players that got traded a lot. Luke Rittenhauer, Drew Gooden. I don't think any of those guys were drafted by the Knicks.
It is not Luke Rittenhauer or Drew Gooden. The next one?
Sure.
December 2018, traded to Washington for Kelly Oubre Jr. and Austin Rivers.
Oh my God, I should know this one. Traded to Washington, Kelly Oubre Jr. and Austin Rivers. This is the one I should know.
This is the one you should know? I'm impressed if you get it off this one.
Traded to Washington. No, he was involved in it. It's not Courtney Lee, right? He was traded with Courtney Lee at one point. Traded to Washington. Who is it again?
To Washington for Kelly Oubre Jr. and Austin Rivers.
Oh, I'm going to be so mad when I don't get this. Carry on.
January 2020, traded with Wenyen Gabriel for Kent Bazemore and Anthony Tolliver.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you run that back?
That's some of these I do not remember at all. January 2020, traded with Wenyen Gabriel for Kent Bazemore and Anthony Tolliver.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Okay. November 2020. Now we're getting multiple trades in a year. Traded with Isaiah Stewart to Rockets for Rocco. That can't be the Isaiah Stewart, can it? That doesn't check out. Anyway, he got traded to the Rockets for Covington.
But he got traded with Isaiah Stewart?
Yeah. Let me look that one up.
I don't know it, so you might want to take me to the next clue.
All right, we'll go to the next one. You got a couple more here. Still in November 2020, a 3-team trade involving DeLon Wright, James Johnson, and Justin Jackson.
No.
March 2021, traded to Miami for Myers Leonard. April 22, waived by the Lakers.
Yeah, just give me it. I'm done.
I would say this is someone, I'll try to help you out here. This is someone I associate with the Harden Rockets and also the Lakers.
Trevor Ariza?
That is correct.
Huh.
04 by the Knicks, and then I don't know. I think if you're going to get this, you're going to get it on some of those early ones, but that's
no. I should have known the Oubre one is the one that I should have known.
So the Oubre one is he went to Washington for. Oh yeah, Oubre was and Austin Rivers. Who hasn't he been traded for? Yes, it is. Let's see. It's to commemorate the second anniversary of the only time he's ever been waived on April 7th, 2022. We celebrate the player who's been traded more than anyone else, Trevor Ariza. Didn't quite beat Rittenhauer's 5 teams in 6 days record, but for a brief period in November 2020, he got real close. Yeah, I forgot he got flipped in 2020.
I got one from Austin for you.
Okay. David West.
No. Clue number 1, I was drafted in 2010. That can't be its own clue. We need more specifics when these things are coming.
Yeah, I'm really bad at. I need like context because I can't remember who was the first pick in 2010. If you gave me like one pick,
drafted in the top like 18 or something, like I don't know.
Yeah, all right. I'm not getting it off that one.
Clue 2, I am one of 3 players from my draft class who are still currently playing in the NBA or NBA G League. Now we're talking.
3 players from the G League thing is feels like a hint. All right, I'm not going to get it off of that one.
Clue 3, I've played for 8 different teams, but more notably played for one of these teams 3 different times.
Oh. These teams 3 different times. Is this Lance Steve? Did we do Lance Stevenson?
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we did. No, I got it. I nailed it. I'm that good.
You did. You did. We did this one specifically.
Yeah, because the last clue is about him blowing in LeBron's ear.
Oh yeah, you're right. But maybe I don't. I thought I had.
I got it based on his rap career clue. I think last time.
Wait. What you got it? What?
Isn't there a clue about like his rap career or something midway through there?
Players I dabble in a music career along with basketball. I thought we did. Honestly, I made a guest appearance on the. Maybe I didn't give you this one, so this is the other one. Maybe I didn't give you. All right,
Let's see.
From Austin. While I've played for multiple teams, I most notably remembered from my time with one team where I was a multi-time All-Star and achieved All-NBA status.
I'm not getting that one.
Clue 2. The team I played the most for came to a sad end for fans when I decided I wanted to be traded to Miami, only to end up being traded somewhere else.
Is this Damian Lillard?
No.
Wanted to be traded to Miami, but went somewhere else. A bunch of teams, but an all-star and an all-NBA guy. I feel like I still don't have enough information.
Clue 3. Like many NBA players, I dabble in a music career along with basketball.
I don't know.
Clue 4. I'm one of 7 players to be drafted top 5 from my college, more notably one of 2 drafted top 5 from my college during my draft class.
Whoa, one more time?
So basically, he's one of 2 players who were drafted inside of the top 5 from his college during his draft year.
So 2 guys went in the top 5 from the same college, and
yeah.
he's one of them.
Yep.
Is this John Wall?
No. Clue 5. Go ahead.
No. I was just talking to myself.
Clue 5. It was rumored I turned down $100+ million extension and $80 million extension from 2 different teams, only to wind up making less than half that amount for the remainder of my career.
Oh.
You'll get it on one of these 3 final clues if that's
yeah. I feel like I should get it here. Nerlens Noel.
No.
Oh, damn it.
Clue 6. I made a guest appearance on the Fox TV show The Masked Singer.
This is going to shock you, Dan, but I'm not a regular Masked Singer watcher.
I think you'll get it on this one. Clue 7. I participated in the 2018 dunk contest. #Wakanda Forever.
Oh, who did that?
That is, in fact, what we're trying to figure out here.
Oh, man. It's Victor Oladipo.
Correct. The last clue was I played college at IU.
Who was the other top 5 pick from Indiana with him?
I mean, I guess I could. No, not offhand. Let's see. That draft. So what year was Victor Oladipo drafted? Was that 2010? No, it's 2013.
Way too long ago.
Well, 2013 wasn't much better, but the other one was Cody Zeller.
Wow. Okay.
Do you have another one for me, or are you?
Yes, I do. This is from Be Rich. Clue number 1. I was drafted in the lottery in 2005 and went on to finish 4th in Rookie of the Year voting.
I was drafted 4th overall. Is that what you said?
No, in the lottery in 05, but was 4th in Rookie of the Year.
All right. Does nothing for me.
Number 2, in my 14-year career, I made the playoffs 8 times, only once making it past the first round.
Okay.
Never in my 14-year career did I eclipse a 50% effective field goal percentage in a season. My career 3-point percentage was 32.9%. Not shockingly, I was never an all-star.
From the 2005 draft class in the lottery. Sucks, sounds like, or very inefficient shooter.
Sucks, but played 14 years and was 4th in Rookie of the Year.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Forgot about the Rookie of the Year one.
All right.
Carry on.
A prototypical, some would say, throwback point guard, I made a habit of showing up to training camp out of shape. In fact, Bleacher Report once ran a piece titled, blank is tired of being called fat.
2005 is too early for Raymond Felton, right?
It is not too early for Raymond Felton. You have correctly guessed Raymond Felton.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. There are only 2 more clues, so you needed to get it on that one. 6th season, the Knicks signed me as a free agent, then traded me 7 months later. That you might have got it there. Took the Nuggets 4 months to get sick of me and trade me to the Blazers, who subsequently traded me 13 months later back to the Knicks. Once hitting my 30s, I became a bench contributor for Dallas, the Clippers, and OKC. I still couldn't shoot for shit.
I didn't realize his field goal percentage was that low, by the way.
I didn't either. I needed the fat clue to get there more so than the 3-point shooting clue.
Let me give you one from Mike.
All right.
Clue 1. I was drafted by the Sonics, but never played for them.
Okay. I'm not getting it off of that one.
Clue 2. I made my NBA debut with the Lakers in my rookie season after my rights were traded at the deadline for Sam Perkins.
So Perkins, so we know when this is. Perkins to the Sonics for this guy. The Lakers. I don't have it.
Clue 3. I was used so sparingly by LA as a rookie that in my pro debut, the last name on my jersey was misspelled.
Oh man. That should do it. Okay. Well, sorry. Next clue.
After my second season, I was traded to the Knicks for 2 second-round picks, but New York is not the team many associate me with, as my only accomplishments during this time were being in the 96 dunk contest and requesting a trade after I couldn't crack Don Nelson's rotation. Side note, I bet you forgot Don Nelson coached the Knicks.
Okay, do I get points for remembering Don Nelson coached the Knicks?
Yeah, honestly, we can move on. That counts.
96 dunk contest. Oh, man. The Sonics, but never a Sonic. Lakers, Knicks. Okay, next clue, please.
I was traded to one of the new Canadian expansion teams in 1996 at the deadline, and despite the team being terrible, we did beat the 72-win Bulls, and I was matched on Michael Jordan for most of that game.
Oh, wow. So Lakers, Knicks, either Grizzlies or Raptors. And a good dunker. Oh,
I did not know he was in the 96 dunk contest, if that's any consolation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even remember who was in that. Was Kobe in that one? Maybe.
It's not Kobe.
No,
you're wondering.
that was not a Kobe guess. Pretty sure I remember Kobe not playing for the Knicks.
You don't think you don't remember Kobe playing in Canada?
Yeah, that too. Oh man, I feel like, well, it's a Raptor or a Grizzly, and odds are it's more likely a Raptor because they would have played the Bulls more than the Grizzlies. I got nothing.
Clue 6. There's 12 clues. So
good.
My first full season north of the border led me to finishing second in most improved player voting. The year after, I was part of their first ever playoff team.
Well, that sure feels like the Raptors. 97 Raptors. Most improved. Sonics to Lakers to Knicks. This guy did play for the Lakers. We established that?
Yeah, he did, yes.
So like Knicks Raptors makes me want to say Marcus Camby, but that is not a dunk contest person or a Laker. So I guess I need more information.
In 2000, I was traded straight up for Corliss Williamson, a.k.a., for anyone who cares, Big Nasty.
A.k.a. never scoreless Corliss. So what is he going from Toronto to the Kings, maybe? I don't got it.
Clue 8. I was part of the most controversial playoff game in NBA history in 2002.
Okay. Oh, Doug Christie.
Correct. Nice job.
Oh.
The other clues in 2003, in a preseason game, Rick Fox elbowed me in the face, so I uppercutted the shit out of him, leading to a skirmish in the hallway. Clue 10, I was traded to Orlando in 2005 for Cuttino Mobley and Michael Bradley, but my ankle was so messed up I only played in 21 games before getting cut. I signed with the Mavs the following season, only played 7 games before getting cut. I signed a 10-day with the Clippers and played 7 more games before retiring. Since I retired, I've had my own reality show on BET in which it showed how my wife and I balanced family and celebrity life. It was canceled after 1 season. I was a Kings commentator before being hired by Mike Brown to be an assistant head coach. Was the final.
Okay, yeah. I see those. That's how you do it. Because those clues, if you're not getting it on those last couple clues, you're really blowing it. I like that they got to like you're definitely getting it later. So it feels good if you get it before those ones.
You want to take us out of here?
Sure. Everybody, thank you for the clue contributions or guest player contributions. Thanks for listening. Please to grow the audience. Rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends, spread the word about the podcast. If you want to join our Discord to submit guest players, the link for that is in the YouTube and podcast descriptions, as is the link for some merch. Dan is supporting some tonight. Yeah, I think it's going to cover it. Thanks again. Shout out, as always, to the one and only Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jared Allen.